Hello and welcome to this episode of Demystified as we explore home cooking in a modern world. Hello, I'm Linda and I'm here with my friend Paul. Hey Paul.
Hello Linda, good afternoon.
It's afternoon tonight. I know, it's afternoon today. Paul, we've been talking about Downdraft Cooktops and as you mentioned...
Why are we talking about that, Linda?
We are, because potentially Dougie and I are getting one.
Hooray!
Woohoo! But this is a good topic and you brought it up and I think it's worthwhile recording about because there might be other people that don't know and have thought about even an induction cooktop, let alone
Well, I think we talked about induction and gas. I think we did a podcast on that, didn't we?
We mentioned it briefly. We mentioned it briefly. But yeah, I think this is a really interesting topic because downdrafts certainly have come a long way in the years that they've been out in the market.
Well, yeah, I mean, and there's two sort of, I suppose, particular types when people refer to downdraft. There's one which is a built-in, integrated into the cooktop itself exhaust system, and there's another one which is essentially like a pop-up, which is a motorised exhaust fan which comes up vertically from the back of your cooktop. We're not going to talk about those because they're rubbish.
Rubbish. Just full stop. Don't buy one.
And they're kind of, they were kind of the first sort of iteration of downdraft was that sort of pop up from the back of the cooktop. They're still around. You can still get them, of course. But from an efficiency standpoint, and also the way they look and the mechanics of putting them in, you got a lot of moving parts and stuff like that. Like you need mechanical arms to actually push it up out of the bench top. And I've never, although I have used them, I've never sort of rated them and thought they were any good. I like the integrated ones which are built into your cooktop, generally with induction, but some people do have gas as well. So yeah, I just thought, well, seeing as you're looking at potentially, I mean, we have one in our test kitchen.
Which I'm thinking of nicking.
Yeah, that might disappear off to your place. But I thought, yeah, seeing as we were sort of talking about it, we gave Dougie a quick rundown, I suppose, the other day. I thought we may as well talk about them if they're good.
Well, this is a Bora one that we're actually...
Yeah, so I mean, we're like, yeah.
But
truth be told, there's a lot of manufacturers out there.
There are.
And I, all clarity up front, I did work for Bora briefly.
That was the beginning. But that was the beginning, actually, Mr. Munsey, of actually starting cooking demos.
Yep.
That was the very beginning.
Yep.
Of this whole journey for you. This whole journey of getting in front of people talking about food and also the appliance was on this particular Bora.
Well, and its
this one and
sisters,
yes,
but
in Bora, but
and then since I've had a look at a lot of others. So globally, there are only very few manufacturers of this. So a lot of brands will not build these in-house. They purchase from a specialist and they're rebranded to whatever brand you see in the shop floor. So a lot of them are the same, although they might have a different appearance. A lot of them are essentially the same. But the way it works is effectively you put your pot on the stovetop and somewhere in the middle of the stovetop you have an exhaust fan and it's underneath your bench top where all the workings of it are. Now there's generally two options to get the exhaust, get the fumes and the steam and all the rest of it out. One is having it recirculated and one which we're looking at for your place is having it actually ducted out. So we in the Cooking with Steam kitchen have recirculated where all the steam and cooking smells and odours and all that sort of stuff run through a built-in stainless steel filter and then through a charcoal filter, and then basically that comes out as nice, clean, fresh smelling air after it runs through that filtration system, or alternatively you have ducting like you would in any exhaust fan and duct it out. It's just that generally with this you're not going through the ceiling. You go through a sidewall.
Which is what it appeals to us.
Yeah, or something like that. Which is generally pretty good. So a lot of knockers will talk about how much how much they can draw. And everyone uses an example of a pot of boiling water. So you can actually see the steam and you can see it getting drawn down into the exhaust in the middle of the cooktop. And everyone sort of does the critique of large, tall pots. And I actually have had people come to a demonstration bring their pot because they didn't believe that, a pot of that height would actually be able to draw exhaust fumes down. So to quote a little bit of, previously learned from Bora sort of information, is that steam and cooking vapours and odours rise at 1 metre per second. Okay? So from the pot surface, they go up at 1 metre per second. Now, the one that we're working with, it draws at 4 metres per second. Okay, so you're getting four times the speed of what the cooking odours rise at. So what it does is actually comes up quite a long way from the surface of the cooktop and grabs the steam, even from a relatively tall pot. You're not going to put a commercial grade pot on your cooktop, which is 1 metre tall, generally. Most people's largest pot is for something like boiling water or making a stock or something like that. And most, and I'm generalising here, but most downdrafts will be able to draw quite effectively. The other big benefit of them is sound, okay? Because we're mostly used to having exhaust fan around about the same height as our head ears around there. When you're cooking, that's all you can hear. So when you're over your stovetop, you can only hear the fan and the drawing of the air. And look, a lot of range hood manufacturers, some do it better, others have external motors. We can get into that argument totally differently, but this puts the sound at your waist level. So everything around you is much easier to hear. And it also opens up space. So we know that kitchen design and having island benches and cooking in island benches is very popular. It means you don't have to have a range hood hanging down in front of your face. So if you do want to entertain in front of people and you've got your cooktop in an island bench, you're not hidden by anything because it's all built in there. So my personal opinion of them is that they are fantastic, but you've got to get the right one.
Well, I've seen what you've done with this one in the cooking with steam kitchen, and I know how quiet it is compared to what I have at home, as an example.
Yeah.
And I see what you do and the way that it works, and the fact that no matter what you're cooking at the end of a demo or whatever you've been doing, there's very little smell that's left over.
Yeah.
In fact, the only smell that we can really tell that's coming out of the cooking with steam kitchens when you're baking.
Yeah, with the ovens.
Yeah, and that's when we get really excited because then we can tell what's going on in there.
Yeah. But with your cooktop, I mean, quite often you don't want to... it depends on where you're from, but I mean, we like to cook lamb.
Mm.
And lamb, if you've ever cooked a piece of lamb in your house, you know that the next day your house smells like lamb.
Or pork sometimes.
Or pork, or, various things. So, I mean, there's a lot of evidence to talk about how clean it keeps the air in your house and your cabinetry and the surrounding furniture and all that sort of stuff. But purely from a cooking perspective, the convenience of it is unbelievably good, especially when you compare. And one of the things I said to Doug was, well, we don't have to pull trivets off the cooktop.
Mm.
We just wipe it down, and the bits of the actual exhaust just go straight into the dishwasher. So convenience. When you can clean your exhaust filters daily, and they're the size of a small dinner plate, and that's all it takes up in your dishwasher, it is a process to clean your exhaust fan, regardless of how good it is. It is a process. You've got to remove the filters, and then they've got to, sit on an angle so all the water comes out of them. Generally, and I'm generalising, but a lot of the average to even good filters from different manufacturers will be aluminium rather than stainless steel. So they stain over time, they warp, they bend. They catch grease and stuff, but it's a process to clean. Whereas this is like pull two pieces out of the middle, stick in the dishwasher. Like, it's super easy. And I think anything that you can make easier like that from the cleaning perspective, I spent, I can't tell you how many years cleaning kitchens and cleaning commercial exhaust fans. I mean, it's part of the job when you're a chef. And we used to cut holes out of garbage bags and wear them as a jacket while we were cleaning exhaust fans because it was just so greasy and disgusting. And they're on 12, 15, 18 hours a day. And they're super loud and it's just a pain of a job. But you've got to do it because, you don't want range hood grease dripping down on your food. But any process like that you can actually make the cooking a little bit easier, I'm all for, and especially if it works. So the biggest thing for anyone who's considering it, looking at purchasing it, whatever stage you're at with your cooktop, don't discount them, but you've got to see them working. You have to see it operational, and if you need to take your pot into your retailer or whatever, take it in. Get them.
Well, you won't be the first, will you? If you do take it in, you're not going to be the first, and you won't be the last.
Yeah, and retailers have got very strong views about Downdraft. So, a bit of an insider perspective is a lot of retailers don't like them because for years and years and years they've had deals going with people that make canopy type range hoods or built under type range hoods. They push you in a specific direction, which is pretty much what happened in your sales journey. They push you in a specific direction because they've got relationships and yes, some of them do work very well, but because Downdraft is to a degree still relatively new on the market, a lot of retail salespeople will push back and say, no, you don't want that, it doesn't work very well. Try it. Just try it. Because if you actually look at the cost of what some are very expensive. It's just like anything else. Some are really expensive, some are less expensive. Some of the really expensive ones will have a silencer on them, so it's just like, it's no louder than the breeze of air coming through your window. Like, you really don't even know it's on. Some have got automated bits and pieces, and there's all sorts of groovy stuff. But yeah, don't discount them when you're redoing your kitchen, and see if you can, get to see one in action, because they are fantastic, like really, really good. And this is coming from a seasoned 20-year cook who has spent my life cooking on gas. I'm now all about Downdraft and all about induction.
I have noticed a change.
Yeah.
One of the issues that we've got, because we're looking at fitting it post renovation, is that gap between your wall and where your cabinetry is in your kitchen.
Yeah.
It may not be the right width or depth to cover.
Yeah.
And that's an issue that you have to look at.
Yeah.
And getting a professional to really
So
investigating it professionally, because
and there are a lot of considerations with getting the pros to do it. So part of the beauty of induction is that and gas cooktops to a degree as well, is you can now have them flush mounted. So it's the same, they're sitting at the same level as your bench top. Now the trick with any flush mounting is making sure that the cutout is perfect, number one. So if you're doing it on stone, timber, like whatever your benchtop material is, you got to be able to get it within less than a millimetre. You want it perfect. But then you actually need someone to come and silicon it in perfectly. And doing perfect silicon, or I've seen about 2 or 3 people that have been able to do it perfectly. And getting a perfect 2 mil silicon bead all the way around your cooktop, so it's got no leaks, it doesn't catch food, it just sits up proudly enough, but not super proudly, so it doesn't get in the way of that flush installation, But the thing to consider there is, if it needs maintenance, it needs to be pulled out, you're going to have to cut it out. If you're going to have to cut it out, you're going to have to find your dude that did that perfect silicon bead. So there are considerations for that sort of stuff. For the fitting, for what we're trying to do with yours, ideally, what you'd want to be doing is if you can get any downdraft system ducted out, so directly out of your house, so to the nearest wall or outside part of your house, it is ideal because it's a no maintenance. You don't have to worry about changing filters, anything. It's for life. And just be cautious when you're looking at that about people trying to sell you flexible ducting and all that sort of stuff. That's where it's key to get the best. So you can buy the best and strongest and straightest and rigid ducting that you can with curves rather than right angles and all those bits and pieces. Do your due diligence because if you get it right, you'll get some fantastic performance out of it. If you go and buy a really expensive integrated downdraft cooktop and you go and put flexi duct on it, it's not going to work like you saw it in store or on the YouTube videos that you watched or whatever. They've been ducted correctly. If you go and buy cheap ducting, it's having a beautiful car and putting a rubbish motor in it.
Or cheap fuel.
Or cheap fuel.
Kings the engine.
Yeah, you won't get performance out of it. And in your case, having it done post renovation is potentially going to be challenging. But there is behind your cabinetry, so you've got big drawers underneath your cooktop and stuff like that. There is a bit of space there, so we're thinking we can mount it in a different way. But that's all hearsay because the next step will be is to actually get Bora, in this case, someone from Bora to come and look at it. And the really, really good companies will actually draw up the fitting and how much ducting you need and what sort of ducting you need. And that can be done externally from purchasing it from your retailer. So, if you are looking at it, don't discount it, but also understand that a lot of other big manufacturers who buy these products and then put their own sticker on them, for want of a better term, don't include ductwork or don't include that work to get the drawings down and figure out which way the ducting should go. Here's the cooktop, we built it, it's fantastic. I mean, that's the claim. Now you figure out how to duct it out. And finding someone that actually, still at this point, knows the real way to duct out a cooktop, a downdraft cooktop properly, they're few and far between. So go to someone who's a specialist, is what I would say.
Well, I'm hoping that it does work because, as you know, we've got a pretty good range hood.
Your range hood's really good.
It's not a bad one at all.
But what's the problem with your range hood?
The way it was fitted and the water damage we've had leaking. And when it rains, even though we've had 4 different plumbers since we've had it fitted, they've all thought that they fixed it. And yet when it rains heavily, it runs straight down the flue, straight through the range hood and straight onto our bench top, where it flooded my Mac last in March. Before COVID-19, I was stressed. Then we got COVID-19. So now I know what stress is.
And that's just for a regular canopy range hood. So
and it's a good one, but it's also noisy because it wasn't fitted properly.
Yeah.
It's also really noisy.
And noise will depend for the regular range hoods. Noise will depend on length. So
and as is quite a big one, so it's going to be noisy.
There are all sorts of considerations. But if you're doing a reno or considering changing out your cooktop or whatever, don't just go in and look for a new cooktop and a new range hood. Have a look at something like this because if you actually look at the price comparatively, although it sounds like, and I'm making it probably sound worse than it is, a little bit more work to get it installed and get it fitted properly, the price that you're probably looking at to get it installed, ducted correctly, all the rest of it is comparable to having a gas fitter and an electrician come out to fit your cooktop, and then a plumber to come out and fit your canopy range hood, and an electrician, you need power for that as well. So, you probably...
And then you need to get a plasterer, and now we've got water damage at the top.
Yeah.
And so now we have to get somebody else.
Your problem is a pretty specific problem that people, may have experienced before, may not have. If this opportunity for taking the cooking with steam cooktop didn't come up, Would you have considered downdraft? Maybe yes, maybe no.
I certainly would have
You certainly
after.
would have
I would
changed.
have. It has certainly changed the way I view induction.
Yeah.
Having watched the way you use this one.
Yeah.
Because I've seen you use it a few times before we had it, and then when the lovely Andy and Attila packed up shop, and we got hold of this one from their showroom in Kew.
Toorak.
Oh, was it Toorak? No, it was in Kew.
No, it wasn't in Kew.
It was. I'm
South
sure
Yarra.
it was. Yeah, it was around there.
Yeah.
So when they packed up shop and we got hold of this one, and I've seen what you've done with it in the cooking with steam kitchen, it really is impressive, and it's silent and well compared to what I have at home.
Yeah.
And so when this opportunity came up for maybe looking at it, I just grabbed it to look at. Whether it works, I don't know. But the idea of getting rid of our range hood and getting some really nice lighting above our stove, and having not that big grey sort of, and it's architecturally very nice, and it's lovely lights at night and so on, and it works really, really well. It's just noisy, and if Doug's on the other side of the bench, I can't actually hear him when I'm at the cooktop.
Sometimes.
That could be selective hearing, Dougie. But either way, I'm looking forward to exploring it, because now that I've seen what it does, absolutely an advocate for it.
Yeah, and again, I mean, although what we're doing with yours is a pretty specific application, if it can be done, installing ducting post renovation, because it can be a little bit trickier, because we've got to get in behind your cabinetry and maybe do some rebaiting in your drawers and various other bits and pieces. But that doesn't mean that if you're in a position to not do that, it doesn't mean all is lost, because there are recirculation kits. So what we've got fitted in the cooking with steam kitchen right now, it's running through a recirculation kit, which essentially means we don't need ducting at all. So it's got no ducting attached to it. It just runs, the air gets drawn through the middle of the cooktop. Everything passes through the stainless steel filters at the first stage, and then it actually goes through charcoal filters. The drawback here is that those charcoal filters have a lifetime. So, and it's generally worked on for hours use of the cooktop, and then they need to be replaced. The bigger the charcoal filter, the more use you get out of it, of course, but we're limited by the particular type that we've got. So the charcoal filters are reasonably small, although I would suggest that they're quite effective. So worst case scenario for, let's say, your place, is all lost because we can't duct it out? No. Could we put could we put that system into your house now? If we got the bench top cut, yes. The question then becomes, do you want to replace two $100+ charcoal filters every couple of years? It's up to you. But what I'm saying is don't discount it, and although that one's quiet, if we had it ducted out, it'd be quieter. So there's benefits to getting it ducted out, and there's drawbacks figuring out how you're going to duct it out. But it doesn't mean that you can't recirculate the air, which is effectively what we're doing. Dirty air is going in and clean air is coming out. That's effectively what's happening. But it doesn't mean all is lost. So if you're going in just for a cooktop replacement, or you're doing a minor kitchen upgrade or reno or something like that, just have a look at it and ask. I mean, any good manufacturer or supplier will give you both options. No one will say to you, you can only have it ducted out. They will suggest to you that it's better, because it is, because you don't have any consumables. But nonetheless, you can still get the job done and have a really good working Like, I'd have that thing in my house, and I'm not going to bother ducting out in a rental. But I just pull out my old cooktop and put it in just through charcoal. Just go through the charcoal filters, absolutely. But that's the question for you and Dougie, I'll answer, I suppose. But yeah, downdrafts, they're really, really good, really effective. And I kind of figure once you start cooking on it, you kind of go, okay. So don't be swayed. I mean, we've talked about this when you're buying your ovens and any cooking appliance. Don't be swayed too much by what the salesperson might tell you, because they've got their own personal opinion. see as much as possible. Go to demos if you can, just like you would for your oven. Just ask them if you can see these things up and running and firing.
Well, I think these days, and I know we've discussed this before, that there's so much more information that you can find on Mr. Google, our best friend, which is great because if you can't get to a demo because of the situation we're all in, or
wouldn't stream demos be a good idea?
Wouldn't that be a great idea, Paul? I wonder who's doing that. Hey, and another time, but yes, I would absolutely say that having seen what you do with it, from the times that I have seen you at demos, before we were doing Cooking with Steam filming, and now, and here it is, all these years later, it's the same cooktop. And yes, it hasn't been used that heavily, but it is quite a few years old, and it is still in amazing nick.
Yeah.
And that Downdraft is still working really, really well all these years later.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just, well, I kind of, this little or no maintenance to it. That's what I like about it. And that we've got to, like I said, if you had it ducted out, there is no maintenance. I mean, we originally, when we sort of floated this idea, talked about drilling a massive hole in the wall of a rental office building. Like, this is a bit out of control.
It was a little bit out of, but that didn't last long. We sort of looked at that and went, no, we're not going to do that. No. But even the way that you've got it now, it's just great.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference. And
yeah. But I think the thing is, I've spoken to at length to people who work on designing range hoods and canopy range hoods and built under range hoods and all the rest of it. And I've got my own opinions about range hoods. Like, I think built under, so those small ones that are hidden under your cabinetry are just an absolute joke waste of time. Like, I don't care who makes them. They can be the best maker in the world. I don't think they're good enough.
Okay, so we've now offended all the people who've made pop-up downdrafts and under. Okay.
Yeah, but the under built cabinet. Under, or whatever you want to call them. I call them
built in.
Built in, built under, whatever you want to call them. They don't have the depth. So they only cover the back section of your cooktop. Now, how often are you using only the back two burners? Most home cooks use the burners towards the front of them. So what happens is that all of your fumes and vapours and stuff while you're cooking are coming straight up and hitting the front of the cabinet, not underneath the cabinet, because the cabinet front isn't out as deep as your bench top is or your cooktop is.
And one of the things you taught me years and years and years ago was that you need to put your range hood on a few minutes before you actually start cooking.
Yeah, and that's still true to this day if you are working on a built under. And a built under range hood will work better if you do that, but I still am yet to meet someone that does it.
I do it.
Yeah, okay.
I do it.
Yeah, because you've had it drummed into you, and if you don't like it. But I'm yet to... there are very few people that follow that advice. Most people's range hood goes on when the room starts to get a bit smoky and the smoke alarm goes off. Yeah?
True.
And it's too late. And then they expect that I've paid X amount of dollars for this really good range hood. The girl told me that it was awesome. It's really going to do the job. It's going to remove everything. But if the room's smoky and the smoke alarm's gone off and you just decide to turn it on there, too late. What you're actually better off doing in that situation is turning an air conditioner on. That will clean the air faster than a range hood that's gone on too late. Nonetheless, if you turn your range hood on 5 minutes before you start cooking, it gets the air movement going. So what range hood manufacturers or people that sell range hoods talk about is the amount of the cubic meters it draws per hour. So that's how they talk around how many cubic meters of air go through the system per hour. And so the more cubic meters of air going through the system, the better.
And for most home cooks that have absolutely no idea what that means.
Correct. What I find attractive about one brand in particular, but about people that know what they're talking about when they talk about range hoods, they don't talk about that. They talk about speed. Meters per second. Steam, cooking vapours rise at 1 metre per second. Our downdraft draws at 4. Like, that's easier to understand because you can see it happening. So, yes, to some degree, you turn your range hood on 5 minutes before it starts, and it will move the air in your kitchen, and it will draw better. The question is do you want your range hood on, and onboard motor, external motor, whatever you've got? Who remembers to do that? No one. You don't with a downdraft, and with most of the ones that I've used, and I've used maybe 4 different brands. You don't have to do that. You put your pot on, and I mean these days they're getting even better. You put your pot on, you turn the pot on, and the downdraft starts itself.
Wow.
So you don't have, I mean, and I know range hoods do the same thing. There's connectivity between a cooktop and a range hood now, and you put the pot on, and the range hood turns on, but that's still too late. It should have gone on 5 minutes before. So
when you were prepping.
When you were prepping. So ideally, that's the scenario, but in the case of a downdraft, you don't have to do that.
Well, there you are. So there's a few reasons to look at.
Just have a look at it. I mean, we're not promoting a brand.
No,
we're just talking about our experience and my experience with them, and potentially your experience. And this would be a good one if we do get it fitted into your house to revisit in a month's time after you've had it for a month and see what you think. See what Dougie thinks, especially.
Well, he was pretty impressed when you just put some water on and showed him in a pot.
And this is
someone who doesn't like cooking.
Yeah, doesn't like cooking.
And certainly is sick of cleaning because I cook. When I cook, he cleans the hob, and when he cooks, he cleans the hob.
You clean up, and then Dougie recleans.
Yes, well that's
Even
true.
Even when I cook.
Yes, he does reclean. I know.
When I cook, I clean. Dougie recleans.
But either way, he and that gas hob go way back, whereas I don't do it that often. So
yeah.
But I,
And if you're worried about if your favourite pot or pan will work, just take it into the store. I always
no, you gave a good tip in our kitchen kit. Put a magnet on it.
Yeah.
If a magnet sticks on your pot, it'll work on the induction.
Yeah. And some are, I mean, although they're becoming less and less now, some are still ceramic cooktops, which is the ones that glow red under glass. That's not induction. Those two things are two different things. Although you can get gas with a downdraft, people put in sort of blockers to stop the air blowing the flame out effectively, like you're drawing the flame away from the cooking vessel. I think they're really well suited to induction. So, and ceramic is becoming a very old school sort of technology that no one's really putting a lot of effort into anymore. So, if you've been on a gas cooktop with a really noisy range hood and it's time for a change, don't be daunted by it.
Have a look. Weigh it up.
Yeah, weigh it up. Weigh up the cost. Weigh up all of the things because they're fantastic. Really, really good. Really
thanks.
Good
thank you for that. And I'll keep you posted, guys, about whether this particular range hood can be put into our house.
Yeah, and then see what you think.
Yeah.
See what Dougie thinks. Maybe we should interview Doug.
No, he doesn't want to be. We've tried that. Okay, thanks for that, Paul.
See ya.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this podcast as we explore home cooking in a modern world. We'd love you to subscribe, and for more information, please go to our website, cookingwithsteam.com.